Have you ever wondered about the ancient people who spoke to the trees, the ones who connected with nature in ways we can barely imagine? What if I told you that these mystic figures held secrets passed down through generations? Secrets that still influence us today. The Druids, keepers of wisdom, nature's protectors and spiritual guides, were some of the most fascinating figures of the ancient world. But just how much do we really know about them? Let's take a journey into their world and uncover their mysteries. The Druids were a powerful and enigmatic group in ancient Celtic societies, especially in what is now Britain, Ireland, and parts of France. They were the priests, philosophers, healers, and teachers of the Celts, holding an esteemed place within the social structure. Imagine being in a society where the Druids were the ones who held all the knowledge, spiritual, medical, and philosophical. They were the storytellers and the keepers of ancient traditions. They didn't just follow the rules of society, they shaped them. Their influence was vast, affecting everything from lawmaking to the spiritual well-being of the people. But despite their importance, the Druids left no written records of their own. What we know about them comes from the accounts of Roman invaders, Greek historians, and a handful of surviving traditions. And still, they remain shrouded in mystery. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Druids was their secrecy. Their practices were kept hidden from outsiders, and they didn't leave behind books or scrolls. Everything they taught was passed on orally, in whispered words, shared only with those who were chosen to know. They held sacred rituals that linked them to the spiritual world. They believed deeply in the interconnectedness of life, nature, and the divine. Their ceremonies were often performed in natural settings, surrounded by trees, rivers, and stones, places they considered sacred. The Druids weren't just about worshiping nature. They communicated with it. They believed that trees, especially the mighty oak, had a soul. The oak, in particular, was a symbol of strength and endurance, qualities the Druids cherished deeply. Can you imagine walking into a sacred grove, surrounded by towering trees, feeling the presence of ancient spirits around you? That was their reality. At the heart of Druidic life were the core beliefs of the Celts. These people had a profound connection to the natural world, and their spiritual practices reflected this. The Celts believed in a cyclical view of life, death, and rebirth, where everything in nature had a soul and a purpose. Their festivals, like Samhain, which we now associate with Halloween, and Beltane, were deeply spiritual occasions. Samhain marked the end of the harvest season and was a time to honor the dead, while Beltane celebrated the coming of summer with fire rituals meant to purify and protect the community. These celebrations were not just about honoring the seasons. They were about connecting with the energies of the earth, the spirits of the ancestors, and the gods and goddesses who governed their world. The Druids played a central role in these festivals, guiding the people through sacred rites that marked the turning of the wheel of the year. Nature was more than just a backdrop for the Druids and Celts. It was a living, breathing part of their spirituality. The forest, the river, the stone, each element had its own spirit. Sacred groves, often deep in the heart of forests, were places where the Druids conducted their rituals. The Druids believed that certain trees were especially sacred, and the oak tree was at the top of that list. In fact, the word Druid itself is thought to be derived from the Celtic word for oak, dru, or drui. The oak was not just a tree. It was a symbol of life, wisdom, and connection to the divine. Imagine walking among ancient oaks, their branches heavy with leaves that have witnessed centuries of human history. It was here, among these trees, that the Druids felt closest to the gods. Their rituals were infused with a deep respect for nature's cycles and the sacredness of all living things. The rise of the Roman Empire and the spread of Christianity brought significant challenges to the Druidic way of life. The Romans, eager to expand their empire, saw the Druids as a threat to their control. They were powerful, revered figures with great influence over the Celts, and the Romans wanted to suppress that power. In the 1st century CE, the Roman Emperor Augustus declared war on the Druids, and by the 2nd century, they had been largely driven out or destroyed. Christianity also played a part in their decline, as the Christian Church viewed Druidic beliefs as pagan and sought to replace them with their own teachings. But while the Druids themselves faded from history, their influence never fully disappeared. Their knowledge and traditions were passed down in different forms, influencing everything from modern spiritual practices to our understanding of nature and the environment. Fast forward to today, and the spirit of the Druids is still alive in many ways. Neo-Druidism, a modern spiritual movement that draws inspiration from ancient Druidic practices, has gained popularity in recent years. Modern Druids often emphasize environmentalism, viewing nature as sacred and urging people to live in harmony with the earth. Their rituals and teachings, though based on ancient traditions, have been adapted to fit the needs of today's world. In fact, many environmental movements have been inspired by the Druidic reverence for nature. The modern Druidic revival is a response to a world that has become increasingly disconnected from the natural world. It's a call to return to the old ways of honoring the earth, protecting the environment, and living with respect for all living things. In addition to their spiritual duties, the Druids also played a crucial role in Celtic society as judges, lawmakers, and mediators. The Celts had a unique system of law, which was deeply influenced by the Druids. They believed in a balance between spiritual law and worldly justice, where actions in the physical world were seen as deeply connected to the spiritual realm. The Druids were often consulted for matters of law, both to settle disputes and to interpret the will of the gods. Imagine walking into a Druidic court, where decisions were made not just based on human law, but on the spiritual forces believed to be at work in the world. Their knowledge of law was so respected that it transcended mere human authority. It was said that in some cases, a Druid's decision was final and binding. No one could challenge their judgment. Their role as mediators was also vital in maintaining peace and harmony within Celtic communities. In times of conflict, the Druids would step in to provide counsel and restore balance, ensuring that the spiritual and physical well-being of the people remained intact. The Druids were also known for their deep interest in symbols and the art of divination. Symbols like the spiral, the triskel, 3 interlocked spirals, and the oak leaf held significant meaning in Druidic teachings. Each symbol was a representation of cycles, growth, and spiritual wisdom. Divination was another important aspect of Druidic practice. They used various methods to interpret signs from the spiritual world, guiding decisions and foretelling future events. One of the most well-known forms of divination was Ogham, an ancient script believed to be developed by the Druids. This system used a series of marks and symbols carved into wood, stone, or other materials, each representing letters and sounds. The Druids also practiced other forms of divination, such as reading the flight patterns of birds or interpreting the shapes and movements of natural phenomena. They believed that everything in nature carried a message from the divine, and it was their role to decode those messages. This connection to the unseen world was a key part of their spiritual practice, offering guidance to the community in uncertain times. The Druids were more than just mystics or priests. They were the guardians of wisdom, knowledge, and nature. Their teachings, though shrouded in secrecy, still echo through the ages, influencing our spiritual practices, our connection to nature, and even our environmental consciousness. The enduring mystery of the Druids reminds us that ancient wisdom still has much to offer in our modern world. Whether it's the reverence for nature or the belief in a deeper connection to the world around us, their legacy lives on. So, the next time you find yourself standing beneath a towering oak or walking through a quiet forest, remember the Druids. Their spirits may still be with us, guiding us in ways we don't always understand. Perhaps, in the whispers of the wind and the rustling of the leaves, we can still hear their ancient wisdom calling us back to a deeper connection with the world. As we close this chapter on the Druids, I hope their mystical presence and powerful influence have sparked a curiosity within you. But don't go just yet. There's so much more history waiting to be uncovered. In my next video, we're diving into the story of the Iceni tribe's struggle for freedom. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. It's a tale of rebellion, courage, and the fight for independence that's as fierce as it is fascinating. What happened when the Iceni took on one of the mightiest empires in history? You'll have to watch to find out. But here's the thing. You won't fully appreciate their story unless you've seen the ones before. If you haven't checked out my previous videos, you might miss key connections that tie everything together. From the powerful rise of the Celts to the mysterious world of the Druids, all of this forms a bigger picture. So, take a moment to explore my earlier videos and then join me next time for an unforgettable journey through the Iceni tribe's struggle for freedom. It's a story you'll be thinking about long after the credits roll. I'll see you then.